What's up everyone, Steven here with Neural DSP. Today I'm joined by Neural DSP's co-founder, Francisco, to talk about some of the more unique components and features of the brand new Archetype Tim Henson plugin. So let's go ahead and dive into an overview of the plugin and then talk about the things that make this plugin particularly special for Tim Henson.
We can quickly start from the beginning with the pedal section. He wanted like a clean boost with a little bit of saturation, but he wanted to be able to control the bass and the treble fed to the amps. So it's kind of like an active preamp, sort to say. It's a clean boost. If you crank the gain, you will notice some saturation, but it's very mild. It mostly controls the transients. It doesn't really add overdrive. So if you have like a really high transient guitar, maybe a single coil, you might want to add a little bit of that gain to tame that transient, maybe. Or in the acoustic might work as well. Same with the compressor. It's really snappy though, so like careful with the with the transient that goes through that compressor. It's a really powerful one. Mm-hmm. I think he likes his clean tones really compressed because he plays very dynamically. So when he plays quietly with the fingers and everything, and with the tapping and the slap, I think he needs like to control those dynamics. Mm-hmm. The overdrive pedal is like a classic overdrive pedal. We just like tweak the amount of drive and the amount of tone. We always kind of tweak the overdrive to the taste of the artist. But it's a classic overdrive pedal. Then we have the amps. Well, we can start with the lead. I think the icons are glorious. I love those icons. Anyway, so this amp on the user interface was heavily based on, like, we struggled a little bit because we made the other two first, but we struggled with the interface of the third one, and we wanted to kind of like take it away of the realm of the other two, and like Tim sent a picture of like a Tokyo neon street picture, and this is what came out of it. Like, of course, Franco, our designer, is quite a genius, so he kind of got this out of that, and I think it's beautiful.
I think that's one of the things that people are going to really enjoy most about this, is because it's unapologetically Tim Henson's aesthetic. Yeah. It's as you said, it's glorious.
Yeah, it is. This one is really nice. I like this one a lot. But this one is like, it's heavily based on like a British amp. This is probably the most like traditional part of the plugin, like this amp.
Well, it's amazing that this is the lead channel, but when you start playing on it, it doesn't have as much gain as you would expect from a lead channel, which is really nice. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, I don't think he uses much gain, so you crank the volume, the master volume of this one, and you have a pretty decent sustain without having too much distortion harmonics, so to say. It's like really round and nice. But this is probably the most traditional sounding that most people might feel comfortable with. And it's very versatile. You take the gain down and you might get a cleany crunch tone, especially if you start playing with the input gain, of course. Sure. And you most likely can get a clean out of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could always get more saturation or heavy tones by using one of like the overdrive.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And the master volume up will take it more to a creamy side, and if you put it down, it will get more aggressive on the high end. So it's very, very, very nice amp. I love this amp.
Yeah.
Then these are the other two which kind of belong to the same concept on the user interface, so to say. They're, on this one we talked with Tim, and we like this one was maybe the first one that we kind of started working on. There was a lot of like gothic artwork bounced back and forth, and this is what came out of it. It was actually really difficult for the guys to do it because organic figures are difficult for rendering. You need to be very like a specialist in organic stuff to kind of render this thing. But yeah, it turned really nice. It was hard to put that amount of information in an amp without looking weird.
Yes.
And there's two channels on this amp because there was like one sound that he really wanted, and we also thought that the other kind of part of the amp was a little bit more versatile for most people. So like on channel 2 you get like a really like Tim's favorite kind of setting, which is maybe a little bit less versatile, and the channel 1 is probably like a more traditional sounding amp. Sorry to say, it's hard to explain. There's a lot going on.
Do you want to play a little bit so we
Sure, yeah.
back and forth?
Okay. So yeah, so for example, well, I'll just change the 2 settings. This one sounds a little bit more like heavy on the low end, on the mid-low, so to say. And this one is shifted, like it has more bottom. They're slightly different, and we decided to just add 2 channels because like we like both. So it's kind of really nice. They will behave differently when you crank the gain though, so careful with your volumes because they are basically 2 different amps into one. So we packed it on a channel, but everything inside is different. The power section is different, everything is different. So you might get different volumes out of there. You might have to play with the level control to compensate what you like. This is like not exactly an acoustic simulator, but it's an amplifier for being used with acoustic guitars. And we also included on this one a blend control that it's very similar to what we have on a Bassi, but it's slightly tweaked, but it's the same concept that that's an acoustic simulation for electric guitars. So if you're using an electric guitar, you might put it full, but then nothing of the amp will affect. Only it's like a fixed signal chain. Yeah, so the blend control will feed the signal from the input, and then it will bypass the pedal section, and it will feed it in back before the harmonizer. So you can use the time section and the EQ and the harmonizer on it. But if you apply a distortion pedal, it will not affect this because it's like you want to have that attack of the clean guitar blended without anything else. And it's already processed, it's already compressed, it's already EQ'd, it's already like, it has a bunch of things that makes it sound nice. Yeah, so the rest of the amp, it's for acoustic guitar, and because of team requirements, like we didn't really feel the need to put a cab section with all the microphone movement because it's specifically designed for acoustic guitar. So
right, it's designed specifically for his sound.
Yeah. So you will see kind of the cab section disappear because it doesn't really make much, like to change the microphones then, and it's already there, so there was no need to do it. So you will see that the cab section will disappear, even though there is like a speaker sounding, but you will not be able to kind of move the microphones around. As I said, it's like a really stripped down user interface sort of, because it's really complex internally, so we figured that this is the best way to guide the users through it. Yeah, so the effects section, again, there's a lot of difficult decisions on this one, but he wanted a delay with 3 types, so like the diffusion type, vintage, and modern. And they have like the modern and the vintage have different like saturations on the delay tails on the wet signal, and we added an amount control and the switch selection, but it's really hard to kind of like respect our traditional delay design with all these features, so it was really complicated to come up with a solution. But I think it looks fine.
It's elegant the way it is, very simple.
Yeah, I think that these dots were kind of the key to link these modes together, because this is kind of independent from this and this is independent from this, but this is one thing. So he wanted 3 modes, and then the types, and then the modes are for the ping pong, wide, and normal. So it's like there's 6 things that combine with each other. It's a really complex delay, but it sounds really special. This is probably the most complex delay we have done until now. The chorus is also very stripped down because he wanted like a 1 knob thing. So we kind of chose settings, and we kind of got those fixed. And there's a couple of settings that are changing with the dry and wet control internally at the same time, but then you only see the dry and wet. But I think it sounds really nice. Yeah, I think he uses it with one of his traditional songs or something. Yeah, so he wanted to that was actually like Last Call addition, but I think it was a great one, and it looks nice with the 1 knob, like the phaser in Gojira. Like I love those big knob pedals, just one thing, and it's like really nice. And then the Multivoicer. Yeah, this is what I was telling you. It's complex. So the most important thing are the voices, right? So voice 1, 2, 3, and 4, and your DI will get harmonized to each of these voices. So your DI will be kind of your root note, so to say, and then voice 1 will get, in this case, harmonized a fifth upwards, 2 will get harmonized third upward, and so on. So you have a fifth and another and an eighth. So you can change the root of the scale that you're gonna play here, because if you play out of scale, the multivoicer would kind of not know where to put that note, you know, unless you choose chromatic, but we can get that later. That's the most important part of it. Of course, level and pan per voice, you can move them around from here. And there's these macro controls that will kind of limit the range of those. So I cannot go over this pan. But the point of this is that if you already set up your panning and levels nicely, then you can spread them through or tame the volume up and down, respecting the ratio between that. So it's really handy instead of having to go one by one through 4 knobs every time you want to change something. That's a little bit tedious. I think that most people will only use this and just keep the default settings of the levels and the pan. And then at the same time, a little bit less important than level and pan, that's why we put this on the first view, is the detune and delay. But you can delay the voices and you can detune the voices. Basically because, like, I mean, if you think about a choir, people don't sing at the same time and they don't sing on the same tuning, so it kind of humanizes a tiny bit the sound of it. If you do chords, it will get confused. So it's kind of for leads and single notes, basically. Yeah, and then you have unison and width. If I take these two down, it will just do 1/5 on top of the DI. And if I add unisons, it will add more voices behind that fifth. And the width would spread those unisons. So it's like a chorus per voice, sort of thing. Yeah, that's kind of the main features. And there's an EQ. There's an EQ per amp, of course. We always do it, and we will not stop doing that. I think that what makes this plugin special and kind of the view of Tim is that he uses this multivoicer for most of his tracks. So that means that he harmonizes his leads or single note melodies with several voices. Like a multivoicer is quite a complicated device, so it was quite a challenge to develop it. It took a long time for us to research something like this, but we are very proud of the result. Also, to create the user interface to make it kind of in a friendly way and display the most important controls to the user was very challenging. And aside from that, I think that it's really interesting how much the palette of clean tones that he uses is not really traditional, sort to say. It's not really like a classic go-to for clean tones for most people. He uses like very particular gear that it's kind of like, really, you use that, and it's kind of really nice. So we kind of grabbed his signal chain for like as a reference, and then we started tweaking out of that. So all of like almost everything in this plugin is kind of like really unique. I don't think there's kind of they're not heavily based on anything that exists, that's what I think that makes it unique. It really sounds like him, so
right,
it's nice.
So were there any particular challenges aside from the multivoicer that you found during the development of this plugin?
Yeah, to get the acoustic amplifier with the right sound, it was complicated. But No, it works great. Like I think he plugs his nylon guitar now, and it sounds fantastic. So that took some back and forth bouncing, but and then the delay. The delay is really complex. There's a lot of saturation engines on that wet signal. So it's simple. You select one type and then just crank the mode. But internally, it's not simple. And the user interface. That's always a challenge. But it's the visual feedback when you're using something like this. It's I don't know. It's very special. Like you feel really involved with the product.
Well, how important would you say it is to you to make sure that the user experience of playing on one of these plugins is seamless from creation of music to hearing the sound?
I think it changes a lot the perception of how you are playing and how you're interacting with the product. For me, like the user experience is like right under the sound of it, like or by par. They complement each other so well that if you use something that sounds great but looks terrible, and it's terrible to use, you kind of like give up using it, and you might choose something that doesn't sound that well, but it's easier to use and looks better. Just you feel a better connection with it, and I think that like when you open the plugin, it needs to be wow, this is awesome. Like it needs to invite you to play guitar, which is the main point, right? And while you're playing and discovering the sounds, the visual feedback that the plugin gives you and the ease of use should just potentiate your playing, not really come on the way, So yeah, I think it's really, really important. I pay attention to every detail, and the whole design team does.
What do you think people are going to be surprised about when they open up this plugin?
Right. I think they're going to be surprised about how it looks. I think it looks really special. We worked a lot. I mean, if you look at Tim and you look at the plugin, they match. And that's kind of like, that took a lot of work. And he has like a very strong aesthetic concept, which is really cool. It's part of his artistic message, and that's also what we try to transmit in every Archetype series. With Gojira was the same, and so every time it's the same. But he has a really special one as well. So I think that it looks shocking in a way. Like it's shocking how that amp can have so many details. Like the white amp has so many details, like with these angels, and you can see that it comes somehow from a massive cathedral, or it can definitely be somewhere there, And then you're all confused by this one as well, and it's pink, and so much light and a window, and it's like you want to kind of look what's inside in there, and I don't know, it's so interesting to look at it. I don't get tired of the visuals.
What were some of the visual aesthetics that inspired this style?
Right. The moment that we have an agreement, like we start talking about the user interface right away, because we know that takes a long time to get settled. Like usually the sounds, because of course they are musicians, they kind of like have it somehow figured out. And we need to just kind of grab that bass and work our way around it and maybe tweak some things to make it better or offer possibilities. And, but that's a kind of like a well-known path, so to say. But this is a complete unknown realm for everyone. Like, and getting those words out of the artist and put them on a visual concept it's really complicated. So it's usually the material that we exchange is usually pictures, and we have meetings. Like we just share screen and open Google and Google images and this is cool, this is not, and then we create a folder of like inspirational images or that are most of the time, if always, not related to audio at all. So it's churches in the case of the second amp, a Tokyo picture in the case of the third one, and the first one was like it's clear, but like flowers and gardens and pines and blood, and so so that's how it came out. But it's really hard to kind of put it into this, and but it's mostly long conversations and a lot of graphic material.
Was there a request that Tim had for this plugin that made you go, wait, hold on a second?
No, I think the Multivoicer was the one, but it had to be done. So it's like, no, we just dived in. Luckily, we had the right people to make it happen. It's not an easy one. So, but there was nothing like that he really wanted that we couldn't include or anything like that. We usually fight for what the artist wants. In the end, it's a tool for them. So if they don't have what they want, they're not gonna use it. Mm-hmm. The point is that they use it. Like, we make the perfect tool for them to get away with their work, and people like it because, you know, they have a vision of it. So, and they have been using great gear, and they have a sound, a particular characteristic sound that people admire, and I guess that's what defends the product, that it's a great product for the artist himself as a tool. I'm really excited to see what people do with this, because, like, in a way, it's very well crafted for Tim's sound. It has, of course, versatility, but you need to know the product. You need to kind of like, that's why we also made sure that we have presets so people can understand how it works, because the Multivoicer is a complicated device, and, you know, it has complicated things here and there. But I'm really excited what people are gonna do with those clean tones, especially with the acoustic amp. And, you know, you have an acoustic amp and then you have a Multivoicer and a shimmer. Like, you can get really, really crazy sounds out of that. So I'm really excited to see what people do with it.
Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you like this sort of content, you want to see more conversations like this, go ahead and leave me a comment down below letting me know. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.